what note?
To send this back.
No, I just asked some people before class.
Oh.
Yeah. All right, so I got Naomi's bird here. I bring it into After Effects. And whenever we import stuff from Photoshop or After Effects, it needs to be a what? Composition or footage? Composition, right. We're always interested in composition because that's going to give us access to the individual layers, right? But only the top level layers. That's the same for After Effects and Photoshop. Cool. Yeah, let's do this guy first as an example here, because we went over some of this stuff before. I did with Naomi on Friday. And let me save this before I lose this project. Cool. So first things first. I imported it as a composition. Everybody understands that. She set up her top level layers here pretty well. That's good. And now, the other thing that a lot of people get stuck in is that, remember, the default makes 30 seconds, right? And just, you need to cut it down so that you're not even wasting time there, right? And so most of these sprite sheet animations, you want to be dealing in frames, not seconds of animation, right? That's the other limiting factor here. If it's some super long animation that does have deformation, that's not going to be a sprite sheet, right? Sprite sheets are not thousands of images. They're usually like, 24 at the most, right? Most of the time they're way simpler than that. It could just be 2. If it's like a, kind of like a more 8-bit style game, it could be, just going back and forth between those 2 frames. So cut down the timeline right away. Let's go composition. We have 2 different ways to cut it down. I usually do it this way. So other After Effects shortcuts, B and N for the work area. N trims the end of the work area. So I'm going to hit N. And then you can right click and say trim comp to work area, so that it's just this big now, which is much better. And then you notice that you don't actually see it, but these layers continue on past this. I want to trim off the end of the layers, and so I'm just going to hit Alt N square bracket to cut them. I need to select the layers first. Move this over. Let's grab this. And that cuts them off at the next, again, we're not seeing it, but it's like on the edge there. The other thing we want to do is label this stuff. So this is beak. This is blank. So we don't need that. This is cool. These are separate. This is eye. We'll just say pupil. Is that the right spelling of pupil? This is wing. And this is those are here. Body. And here we have feet. Okay. So in just general rigging workflow, this is the first question you need to ask yourself. What needs to move independently, right? Most of the time, the answer to this question means that they need to be on their own layer, right? Because if they're not on their own layer, then you're not going to have access to them independently. There's some tricks, which we can look at here, but it's better to make this decision beforehand, right? So as you're creating the characters, be thinking about what is the most interesting way this can move, and which parts are going to need to move separately, right? And again, do what you need to do. Don't spend a lot of time creating layers for other stuff that's not going to need to move independently. You only have so much time. You need to sort of be efficient here. At the beginning, when you're setting up these rigs, it's going to be, there may have to be some trial and error, where you set it up and you realize you need to go back a step and start over based on the decisions you made. So what needs to move independently? And so this bird thing, we want to have the wings flap. Maybe the beak moves a little bit. And then this is one for everybody, is that if your character has big cartoony eyes, you want to have something happening with the eyes. This is like a dead giveaway as far as like beginning animation, is that all the characters constantly stare straight ahead and they move around, but they're totally doing this the whole time, right? This is one of the things, easy things you can do at the beginning to get, take your work up a level as far as having eyes that do something, right? This is in 2D and 3D. You notice a lot in like really crappy 3D animation where all the characters are staring straight ahead constantly all the time. And you don't need to be doing a lot. It just needs to be something happening with the eyes, either maybe a little bit of eye movement or a little bit of blink, so that something is going on. I'm recording, right? Yeah. So if your character has big eyes, right, this is something you definitely want to try and build into the whole thing. And so let's have the beak move, let's have the eyes move, let's have the wing flap, and then have the legs maybe, just dangle a little bit, right? Something like that. Now remember, this is all sort of the inter-character animation. We don't need to animate them moving across the screen here because that happens in the game. So let's just do a little bit of this. So we want these feet to sort of dangle, but well, actually before that, let's set up all the anchor points, because that's going to be the, this is the key. This needs to happen regardless of what kind of rigging you're doing. What needs to move independently, and then anchor points. Thinking about where they should be in your object. All right. So the beak, if we come here and set this up, the anchor point tool, the shortcut in After Effects is Y. Right? It's also called pan behind, but now it also says anchor point tool. And so the beak, is gonna, if it rotates, it's not gonna rotate from the middle of the beak. It's gonna rotate from over here, right? The legs, the feet. So this is one of those where, okay, it'd probably be better if these were separate, right? So that I could have them move separately, because having them together may make the rotation for this a little bit weird. And so one solution to this would be to go back into Illustrator and fix that, right? Put these on separate layers, so we'd have 2 foot layers. But in some cases, a quicker trick I can show you is to just use a mask and duplicate the layer. So I'm going to go ahead and take this foot layer and just draw a quick mask. So drawing a mask, making sure I have the pen tool selected. If I have a layer selected, it's going to make a mask and not a shape. If I don't have anything selected, it'll make a shape, which is not what I want. I want a mask. And so I have it selected, and I'm just going to, just real quick, this doesn't need to be super accurate. It just needs to be over that layer. Now I just have one leg, right? And so this one here, I can go ahead and select Y and move the anchor point to where I want the anchor point to be for this leg, which would be, right about there, where it's, the hip of this simple bird. Cool. How do I get the other leg? I can just copy and paste this layer. And if you expand down under masks, there's a super handy box here, invert. And so I could just invert the mask. And now this layer is just that foot. So I don't even need to draw two separate masks. If there's enough space between the objects, you can always get away with this, where you can just use one mask and then the inversion of that mask to get the rest of the stuff. And so this will be we'll call it left leg. The direction here seems, yeah. And this one we'll call right leg. Cool. Now the one thing you do need to adjust, even though the masks are working, is that you need to, take the anchor point and for the duplicated layer, move it over to the new spot. Are you with me there? Cool. So that's a super easy trick, and we'll use that trick again. Anybody see another instance where that technique might be applicable?
The back wing and the tail, maybe? Oh, maybe not the tail, but the back wing.
Oh, to get separate the back wing out?
Because the body is attached to the back wing.
Yeah. And the thing that's confusing here is that we're losing the eyes when I turn this off. And so I'm going to go ahead and change the composition background so I can tell what's happening. There we go. Now, more obvious what's happening there. Yeah, okay, so we could separate out this back wing. Let's do that. We can grab this. In this case, it's going to need to be a little bit more accurate in this area. So I'm going to click. And then this is like pen tool in Illustrator. Click and hold to grab that. Now the rest of it is pretty simple. So the other word you'll hear for this is just really simply cutting things out like this is garbage mat. All right, that just sort of super simple mask that cuts out as part of it. Cool. And so now this has become the back wing, and then Control C, Control V, and mask invert, and this is the body now. So back wing, body. This one, it's right up against, so we'll see how we animate this. I think we'll probably be okay because I'm just going to make this move down and back up a little bit. Again, don't push this technique to stupid extremes. Like if you find yourself in there like doing this kind of thing, like you should go back to Illustrator and just put it on a new layer. Like that is way faster. But for things like the leg, it's a piece of cake, right? So keep that in mind. In fact, let's move this 1 point. It's bothering me here. So V, make sure I have back wing selected, mask, path. Let's move this down just a little bit. This one. All right. It's really more time than I wanted to spend, but we get the idea. All right, let's go with that for now. And let's get the rest of the anchor points. That one's good, that one's good. Before you start animating, making sure all the anchor points are where you want. So the anchor point for this, again, Y. Let's move that up like here. Body, yeah, that needs to be kind of like in the middle. And you got to think, if we want this bird to tilt at all, like it should be kind of in the middle. Yeah, we'll do that so that we can set up some stuff. And then the pupils, that's fine for now. Beak, that's good. And the wing. This one's super important. We want the wing to rotate from, the shoulder so that it moves like that. So we'll move this one down, like so. Cool. All right, so part 2, thinking about what you want, setting the anchor points, and then part 3 is parenting. Or setting up your hierarchy. I don't think I spelled that right. So I first. Yeah. So flip those. So the hierarchy, the parenting. If the parent moves, the child moves. If the child moves, the parent does not move. Right? So we did this with the car in Unity, and you can do this either here or there. In this case, we're going to want, maybe put a little wobble in its flight. And so what thing are we going to want to animate to make the bird sort of like just go back and forth a little bit? The rotation of which layer? The body, right? And so if we do that,
You're gonna make everything else look like a child.
exactly. In order for this to work, everything needs to be a child of the body, so that if the body rotates, everything goes with it, right? So if you're thinking about rigging an entire humanoid, right, there's lots of stuff there. But the basic idea is that what would be the top level of a human biped hierarchy? Would it be the head? It would be the body, right? The center from which everything comes out, right? So it would be torso, and then depending on how it sets up, torso, hips, right upper leg, right lower leg, right foot, right toes, right? Depending on how complicated the rig is, right? And so how do we parent stuff in After Effects? You can use this guy. This little squiggly line or curly cube. This is called in After Effects the pick whip. It allows you to set relationships between layers. And you need to be careful is that there is a pick whip for the whole layer, and then individual parameters also have pick whips, okay? And that's handy. We're not going to use that today. What we're going to use today is pretty much just the pick whip from layer to layer. So for instance, if I want the wing to be a child of the body, I can take the pick whip from the wing and drag it to the body, holding, and then I let go, and now the wing is a child of the body. So you can either use the pick whip, or in the parent mode thing here, if you don't see this, you have to right click, columns, parent and link. Let's also turn on modes, because I think we might use that. You have these drop down menus, and you can also just pick the layer you want to be the parent. So some people like doing the pick whip. Once you understand, like you're going from child to parent, from child to parent with the pick whip. Once you get that ingrained, I think it's faster. Or you can just come over here and pick stuff. So pupil, body, this simple bird, most everything's just going to be a child of the body. We don't have like multi-part legs or something like that. And then how about the body? Does the body have a parent? What do you guys think? No. Right, so body, back wing. Yeah, so this is like the world's simplest body rig. Everything is a child of the body. The body has no parent, because that's the thing that's translating everything back down. So now if I grab the body and I rotate it, everything comes along. And all of the animation for those objects will be relative to the body.
I wish I knew this like.
Yeah, I mean, there's only
I
some.
got my body going this way, the head's going that way. It's like-
Well, yeah. I'm always working with the order that I put things together in. Usually, I try to get the thing together so that there's some sort of like functionality to the game. We're going to spend a while building this piece by piece, so this will stay there going forward. Everybody with me so far? Okay. And right now, most of this could have been done, I mean, you could set up a similar thing in Unity, but let's just keep going here. Cool. So let's just set up some, maybe a little bit of movement. I've got 2 frames. In our read, let's make sure we're at the right frame rate, 24 frames per second, 2 seconds at 24 frames per second. Cool. So far, so good. So now, anchor points, good. Parenting, set up, right? If this little, yeah, let me just do one more level of complexity with the rigging. Okay, so this, what I did so far should probably, knock out like 90% of what we need to do for this project, right? Occasionally there'll be something that maybe has a little bit more. Like what if this bird was wearing boots? Let's draw some super simple boots for this. So I'm gonna make sure nothing is selected because I want to draw a shape. And let's zoom in here. And there we go. Let's fix this anchor point. And so I want to keep this consistent here. I don't want to have a stroke on this. What color should these shoes be?
I think going blue was better.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's a decision to be made there, I guess. I'm more looking at it like against the blue of the legs, or the orange of the legs. Okay, there we go. And so this is, what do we call this one? Is this the left? Yeah, I guess it's the left boot. And we will just copy and paste for the right boot. Yep. Now it's better. And anchor points. By default, when you make a new shape layer, it puts it way up in the middle of the layer. That's no good, right? So this right boot needs to be here. And this left boot needs to be here. Cool. Now the reason I did this is what needs to be the parent of these boots? The legs, okay? Not the body, because we want to be able to have it be a, articulating ankle, essentially. I mean, there's no ankle because it's super simple, but let's have this here. So the right boot needs to be the right leg, which is here. And so this one I say right leg, and then left boot is left leg. And I'm going to move both of these down. Now in this case, I don't want them to go below this layer because then the leg goes over the boot, which doesn't look good. But we do want some overlap there, right? Why do we want some overlap? Because let's move them back up so that the compositing is correct. But these aren't going to bend too far, but they are going to bend some. And if we bend them too far, then we're like breaking their ankle, right? And so we want to be able to have enough play there so that it stays like a continuous orange line as we rotate this back and forth, right? And again, like you're not going to do it that much, so just sort of test it out, make sure you got enough overlap. Same thing with the other boot. Let's say V and R. There we go. Save. Cool. What needs to move? Anchor points, parenting, hierarchy. Okay, so far so good. Any questions about what I did so far? And again, this all needs to happen before step 4, animate. Right? This is where we add our keyframes. Everybody with me there? All right. And in general, from like you can go from the center out, or think about what's going to be the most, interesting thing about this. And in this case, I think it's going to be the wing movement, right? It's a bird, right? So it needs to be good, flappy wing movement, right? And so let's go ahead and do that. Which parameter of the wing am I going to use to animate here? Yeah, rotation. I'm not going to move the wing. I just want it to like rotate. So once you set up a rig like this, I would say like 80 to 90% of the keyframes are going to be rotation keyframes, because you're rotating joints. You've built joints and you'll rotate them. Most of the position, if there is any positional movement, will be at the top with the body, right? The body is the thing that would move because everything else moves with it. You can have some movement in the other things, but it's usually the body. And so let's say this is up, kind of like that. And I'll set a rotation keyframe, and then just a few frames forward. Let's have it go down. That. And let's have that repeat for now. I'm going to grab these, Control C. After Effects. After Effects does this where it's not playing back. So here, yeah, that was all bugged because then we crashed. I think I saved right before I started that. Let's go ahead. Yeah, the playback system in After Effects is better than it used to be, because it used to be horrible. Now it's like slightly better than that. Yeah, sometimes you just end up with these things where it will not play back the frames, and usually you have to restart. Hopefully I don't have to restart the computer. Cool. Let's look at this in the graph editor. Something happened with our keyframes there. There we go. I want this kind of like fast flap. Let's see how that looks. Let's have it be even faster. Just start moving some of these around so they're not totally consistent. And a lot of you guys know this one already. If I want to make this whole sequence of frames faster, so on the last keyframe, hold down Alt, drag everything this way to compress it. Let's say right about there. There we go. That's better. And we end up. Let's create some more here. And let's give them some up and down. So not again, most of it's going to be with the moving across the screen in Unity. Here's some body. So on the body, P for position. And let's add a keyframe there. And some of this kind of going up and down. So maybe up a little bit. And back down. And back up. And again, we want everything to loop, right? So making sure the first frame is on the last frame. First keyframe is on both, so that we end up where it was before. What about the up and down keyframes? What's not great about it? Yeah, right now it's linear, which looks lame, right? And so most of these, we're going to right click, keyframe assistant, easy ease. There we go. So we're easing in and out of those positions. That's better. Let's add some rotation to the body. Get some, so here, as we go up, where's he going up? Right about there. Maybe tilts this way a little bit. As he's going down, tilts the other way a little bit. And he's going back up, right here. A little bit like this. And then again, at the end, making sure that we copy and paste the first keyframe to the end. Hit U so I can see all those keyframes at the same time. Better? Let's do the legs next so that they have a little bit of movement to them. And so this is one where, yeah, these are the legs. Ideally, we want to have a little bit of this happening, right? So that as it goes up, the legs kind of go down, right? This is, the animation word for this is secondary animation, right? In that this is the second part, like a tail is the most often, used example here. But this is kind of like a tail for him where this is moving. And so when he goes up, the legs need to do what? Move, they fall down like this, but how does that technically translate? What are we going to actually do in After Effects? Rotate them, right? And then as he goes up, they're going like this, and then it goes like that. And so they rotate up, right? But the key, one of the parts that's going to make this work, is that there needs to be a little bit of delay in that this changes after the direction changes, right? Because this is part of a chain, and the movement is propagating out from the center of the chain. So let's just set it up first and then mess with the delay, but just by moving the keyframes. And so again, we can move the whole thing just by moving the legs. The boots will come along. And so again, I'm going to set a keyframe here on the right leg. Let's do both the legs at the same time. So hit rotation for both of them. Turn on the keyframing, and then as this guy's going up, let's have him rotate down. Yeah, sock him off. Let's, what is the shortcut for this? That's moving there. It's moving. Oh, I think I just messed up the anchor points here. Oh yeah, so this is that one. Do I have these anchor points right? Right leg. Yeah, oh, I got the boots reversed. So that's our main problem. So this right leg. There we go. Okay, this will work now. Yeah, so he's going up like this. Have these rotate down. This one, this one. This is going down. Let's have him rotate up. Kind of like that. Back up. Rotate down. Again, I'm doing this by hand, not punching in exact numbers because I don't want them to be exactly the same. You know, need to have them get some variety there. And then here, let's have them go. Need to get back to where they were at the beginning. And so in this case, I'm gonna Control C, Control V. Oh, another good one. So this happens a lot. I can't believe this has not been addressed in After Effects at this point because it happens to everyone. I've got these two keyframes, right? I want to copy and paste them at the end. You would think I'd be able to highlight both of them, Control C, Control V. That's not how it works. That duplicates the layers because I have two of them selected, which is, yeah.
I was just running through that part.
Deep breaths. Okay, so the way you have to do it is one keyframe at a time. We got this one selected, and I have researched this on multiple occasions, just absolutely dumbfounded that this has not been addressed, but it's not. So there we go. Okay, we got them moving. That's pretty good. We want them to, again, almost everything. We don't want to keep the linear animation, right? We want to change it to, just grab them all. We don't need to tune the curves too much right now. If we just put in a little bit of the easy ease, that's going to at least have them not move separately. There we go. And so now we want these to start coming up once he starts moving down. And so it's going to be a matter of, if you look at the body keyframes here, U, and these, if I do this. So these are the keyframes where the body's changing direction, right? And these are the keyframes where the legs change, where they rotate, right? And so we need to move these so that they happen after the change in the body, just by a little bit. So it makes it seem like they're actually being caused by that. And so here, it's going to take these and move them over, take these, move them past that, take these, move it past. We'd run into an issue here at the end. We'll get to that in a second. Let's go ahead and just see how that looks for that spot. Let's see, just look at this here. Let's just make it a little more exaggerated. So And then our beginning ones, having them start to rotate down. If we look at these in this view, so this is the rotation that's happening here for the legs. And the issue that we run into, it looks better when we delay it, right? I'm able to just, for the ones in the middle, I just drag it over to the right, you know, because the other keyframes, if we look at the body position, there we go. You can see that the leg rotation, like this is one wave, and this wave is after this wave, right? When we're talking about the relationship between two waves, the word I would write down is phase. This one is not obviously, we have waves that are happening, and when you change the phase of a wave, you change its relationship to another wave. Right? This is, the problem is, at the end, in order, because this is a loop, I can't delay this one anymore, right? Because then that would do, it wouldn't be in the sequence, and that would then make my endpoint different than my starting point, which would cause some sort of like glitch in the loop, right? Because the beginning point needs to be the same as the endpoint. And so you need to think about this as it repeats going forward, is that this, the change in direction here, and then this change in direction needs to be delayed. The delay would actually come over here. And so I'm going to need to sort of move these by hand so that they work correctly. And because I ease them, I'm going to do this. Because now the keyframe essentially won't be here. I'm going to add another keyframe for these past this point by either just clicking here, that'll add another keyframe, or you could, that's the easiest way, that's the way I usually do it on both of these things. I don't want to add a keyframe for this thing, so deselect that, just want the rotation. There we go, that gives me another one. Move these down. These points need to be the same as the beginning, so I'm going to copy these. I did these here at the end. Let's paste them into the beginning. Same thing. So crazy making. I just have one selected, just this one. There we go. Right, so I got the wave to continue here, right? So these were easy ease keyframes, and I just got the handle so that it didn't look like this. It didn't ease into that position. I kind of straightened it out, so the wave just continued. And the wave continues over here on the other side, and then this keyframe here that I added is like the delay of that, so that the legs continue to move after the thing. Let's move this down like that. Let's see how that looks. Good enough. Right, so delaying the legs after. Let's exaggerate some more. So we can make the leg movement more exaggerated by just moving these up and down, where we are able to there we go. I got something weird on the mask there. There we go. Let's add some rotation to the other wing. So this is one where I should be able to take these keyframes, and let's see how it works if we just apply them to the back wing. And you go ahead and Control V. Okay, we have a start. How do I fix it going in front of the body? What do I need to adjust? Yeah, so over here, our back wing needs to be below body. And then the position of this, bring this down so we don't see the edge. And probably don't want it to be exactly the same as the front wing, right? A little bit of variety here. And so in the rotation keyframes on the back wing, I'm just going to drag some of these and just by hand mess it up a little bit. Let's say these. So it's like relatively the same, but not exactly the same. It's better. So it doesn't look like it's the exact same keyframes. Cool. Good. Eyes. So secondary animation. If there's an opportunity for that in your character, great. Not all characters will have an opportunity for that. You want to build that into some characters. Like, we'll look at Jay's red block enemy over there. Like, maybe there's something we could do in the eyes, but there's no tail or legs. But here, it works. So the fundamental thing is like the parenting, but then that this is delayed compared to that, so it looks like it's swinging. Everybody with me there? That's the key part, the relationship between, the phase relationship between the two waves. We've got those on there. Let's do something with the eyes, because the eyes are going to be a little bit different. So let's go to here we go. And so here, we'll have them move around. Eye movement. The most, I can't even physically do it. Like the weird thing people do is that they'll set 2 eye keyframes. Well, I'll do it. I can't do it as a person because it's really strange. And it's kind of impossible. It's when you look around, if you look at yourself in the mirror and your eyes moving around, there's no slow, unless you're tracking something. But even that, like your eyes kind of like moving in these very, very quick increments, right? It's never like, if you looked at someone doing that, you would know there's something deeply wrong with them. Right, so like if I do this and then follow my rule, make the last keyframe the same as the first. Right, just linear keyframes moving. That looks weird. No being's eyes move like that, where it's like this very slow, like I said, I can't even like make fun of it. Like your eyes step across the way your brain works. And so any eye movement needs to be super quick. And then sort of holding it and moving back and forth. So in this case, let's have him move over this way. So I'm going to grab this one. Let's just go back to the dope sheet view. So here, move this over. So it's just a few frames. And then it needs to stay in that position. How do I get it to stay in that position, Brad?
I think the stay is to basically remove the position or make it not a parent. Well,
The easy one is.
Oh wait, no, the easy one is square wave.
Okay, that would be make it a hold keyframe, right? Is what you're saying? The hold square wave is the hold keyframe. You just copy and paste this keyframe
Okay.
there, so that they stay in that position. Right, and even that seems like kind of slow. Maybe they move even faster. So kind of like, yeah. And then when he's going down here, let's say he's going up, and then maybe before he starts moving down, he looks down. And so here, just really quickly, I'll just go kind of like that. And we want those to stay in that position till right about here. So grab this one, Control V. There we go. And yeah, you see how weird it is there at the end, where here, let's look at this. So, I keyframes, even this, I think I'm going to shorten these up because it feels like a little bit too long. I keyframes for pupils should look like this, right? Very quick movement and then staying in position. Not like this really long linear movement, because that is weird, right? And it's just sort of unsettling. And so we need to keep these in that position. Control C, right here, Control V, and then he looks back up. And we need to make sure that the end is the same as the beginning. Control C, Control V, Control C, Control V. There we go. Way better, right? Than weird, slow eye movement. Most facial stuff is like this, right? You know, you're capable of doing it with your mouth a little bit slower. But, I mean, Colbert had that joke. Does anybody even remember when Herman Cain was running for president 3 or 4 elections ago? But he released all these ads where he took like 5 seconds to smile at the end. And it was just, I mean, he was in no danger of becoming president anyway, but like it was really, you know, made you sure that he was a strange human being. Now he's in the administration. Yeah, even this, like 3 frames, maybe too long. Let's move those over. Good. What else would really add to this? I think we're pretty good now. Maybe a little bit of beak.
Could maybe do something with the tail.
Yeah. Let's see if we can copy our foot keyframes to the tail. Let's see if that works. Let me just add a little bit of beak here. So again, this is going to be rotation. So there. Let's see if the beak should move kind of like the eyes. Because it's kind of part of the face here. And if we take our leg rotation, Control C, let's go to our tail is not separate, right? That's part of the body. And that is one where making a mask does not make sense, right? So going back to, let's not do that now because we'd have to go back to After Effects to separate that out because it's part of this layer, right? Or actually, if it's in front of the wing here, if we get the front wing, yeah, we could probably do that because we're not going to see most of, let's see what that looks like, how much of it gets covered up by the wing. Yeah, we could probably manage it. Let's see. So in the body, again, make another mask here. So there we go. And I probably would have duplicated it first. So there's two masks now. So we need to label this stuff. One is for wing, and one is for tail. So we're kind of up against this point of diminishing returns using this mask technique, right? It's kind of getting more complicated than it's worth, but we'll just finish this one out. There we go. So this is tail. And let's put a anchor point in here for this tail. So we don't want the tail to have any of the other keyframes. Gonna come in here to U. Just turn off this stuff for the tail. Get the anchor point. Move this over here. So this is one of those ones, if we want the tail to go back and forth, we could see that based on this mask, if we rotate it all from here, watch what happens. We don't want that, right? So in this case, cheat it in first, this way. Put it behind the body, and then put the rotation point over here so that we give ourselves some room to go back and forth. So there we go. And let's take our rotation points for the leg, which might be close, and put them on the tail. So here, if we zoom out a little bit, we want to make sure that, where does it get most out of bounds? There. We grab all of our keyframes and then simply just shift them. So now that's the maximum. And where does it get most out of bounds on the other end? There. So now grab this one. Yeah, so let's scale all of these.
Isn't it because it has to be a child of the body? So that it falls up and down with it?
Yeah, yeah, we do. So tail. Body. And rotation. Grab all of these. So I have the same wave. I'm just moving where that wave is. And then looking at which points go too far. There we go. And turn back on wing. Cool. So taking something that was super static, now we've like really given some life to it. Effects, like we said, in this instance, if we wanted to make one of the legs look darker, right? Let's say, yeah, this one. Yeah, this would be a case where we could just put a levels effect, or just brightness, makes it even easier, on that. So darken that one, and then also the boot here. So you can copy and paste effects, Control C, Control V. We'll also darken that boot. If I got it on the right boot. Cool. Everybody's good on rendering out the image sequence? Everybody understands that part of it? No problems there? Okay.